This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Double earthquake. 164 are dead and 971 injured, and the numbers are climbing after twin earthquakes struck Venezuela less than a minute apart overnight. ABC News.
Desperate searches underway right now in Venezuela after a pair of powerful earthquakes in quick succession, magnitude 7.2 and 7.5.
Widespread power outages have plunged the country into darkness. The search for survivors happening in multiple cities. William Barnhart is with the U.S. Geological Survey.
There will absolutely be aftershocks that follow this earthquake, and some of them could be quite large and damaging.
But help is on the way. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We're already deploying search and rescue teams. Their most immediate need right now is search and rescue efforts. They have collapsed buildings, and so they'll need a lot of help in terms of digging through that. We have a whole government response. It'll be big, it'll be fast, and it'll be effective.
These are the strongest earthquakes to hit the country in more than a century. It wasn't just Venezuela. Japan and Northern California also rocked by large earthquakes last night. The one in California was a magnitude 5.6, the largest there since 1940. Scientists say the quakes did not trigger one another. The U.S. Supreme Court dropped more decisions at 10 o'clock this morning, but not the big ones we're waiting for. Justices ruled President Trump can restart his controversial asylum policy that aims to curb the number of migrants at the southern border. They also struck down a Hawaii law that banned guns on private property open to the public, where the owner hasn't explicitly condoned the carrying of firearms. Fox News' Shannon Bream lays out what's left before the court's annual summer break at the end of the month.
There are 12 left for this term, which was, by the schedule, supposed to wrap today. We know that's not happening. They often go into overtime. But we're waiting on really big decisions. 7 or 8 of the 12 that we're waiting on are on our watch list. And they're saving all the good ones, all the biggies, till the end, which tends to be the case. So birthright citizenship, we know that that's one the president is watching very closely. He showed up for the first time. A sitting president went to the argument. So that one will come very soon.
Another large ruling looming. Can biological boys play in girls' sports? A big case out of Idaho. Alliance Defending Freedom is on the legal team for that.
We are hopeful that the Supreme Court will rule the definitions of sex have never changed. Our biology is real. There are women, there are men, there are boys, there are girls, and that's it.
We have an exclusive interview coming up with them in a few minutes. About face. In a late night vote, Senate Republicans reversed course and fell in line behind the president after several conservative lawmakers briefly challenged his war powers Wednesday. The vote last night came hours after a fractious meeting that included a shouting match with the president over Republican opposition to the war in Iran. Senator John Kennedy was in the room.
He was mad as a murder hornet.
Louisiana Republican Bill Cassidy lost his primary to a Trump-backed challenger. He had been one of 4 Republicans that voted against Trump. After a private lunch, Cassidy argued the president failed to provide necessary information for him to support the war in Iran.
And I'm not going to be bullied when I'm trying to get answers for the American people.
Cassidy later had a private briefing that he said addressed many of his concerns. Trump seemed unaffected by the riff in his own party last night, kicking off the Great American State Fair, a 16-day birthday party on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., in honor of America's 250th.
We are beginning the most unforgettable birthday party any country has ever seen.
The president headlining the night himself, saying America is back.
As you know very well, a short time ago, we were a dead country. We were dead. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're respected by everybody. Nobody's laughing at us anymore.
Trump calling this the golden age of America. Now to a mid-air scare. A flight out of Newark was forced to make an emergency landing after an Air Canada pilot suffered a medical emergency. Good thing there was a co-pilot to take over on the flying.
The pilot is incapacitated.
Flight 7664 took off from Newark Liberty heading to Nova Scotia Wednesday afternoon. When an hour in, the captain experienced a serious medical issue and had to be removed from the cockpit. The co-pilot quickly taking over controls, diverting the plane to Boston's Logan Airport. The passengers later deplaning unharmed. Les Admin flew with American for more than 30 years and told NBC pilots are always prepared for the possibility.
Is this why having two pilots is absolutely necessary?
It's certainly one of the reasons. The captain may have more experience, but both of them are trained in the same simulators, and they're both very capable pilots.
None of the passengers were hurt. Can't beat the European heat. Madrid hit 107 degrees yesterday. London, 102. Paris, France was 106 in the shade. A new national record for the hottest day.
So many people who've traveled from around the world aren't getting to see the sights that Paris has to offer because of this heat wave, and it's dangerously hot.
The Eiffel Tower and the Louvre restricting hours. There are videos on social media of the asphalt melting and car windows cracking. The Spanish Health Ministry says more than 200 people have died from the heat since Sunday. 48 people have drowned in France trying to cool off. And Stars and Spikes, the U.S. men's national soccer team takes on Turkey in Game 3 tonight for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Games 1 and 2 ended in victory against Paraguay and Australia. The coach may rest key players, though, to avoid picking up yellow cards, which could force players to sit out games in the knockout stage.
Regardless of if I'm playing or not, you're going to see 11 guys out there now wanting to continue to make history, but also you're going to see 15, 16 guys on the bench also supporting everybody else who's on the field.
The next game, Game 4, could be far more exciting, but sports analyst Alexis Lala shares why tonight matters.
Framing this game as it doesn't matter. I think it matters tremendously for the mentality, the psyche, and most importantly, the momentum for this team that has grabbed a hold of the imagination of America.
He's right. The World Cup has America captivated with soccer. 70,000 fans gave the team a vocal hug after Game 2. We'll do it all again tonight at 10 p.m. Still to come on the Noon Report, New York hits a gay marriage milestone. Jim Kelly was hospitalized, and the driver that hit 5 cars in a high-speed chase in Rochester.
The police helicopter. It was a crazy scene.
Those stories after weather.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley. A bit unsettled as we head through the afternoon with some showers and thunderstorms from time to time. Some thunderstorms could be fairly heavy. Temperatures in most locations will reach the 70s. Full forecast details for the next couple of days coming your way in about 10 minutes.
All right, Ken, checking the stories making news where you live in New York and Pennsylvania. The Empire State on Wednesday marked 15 years since the signing of the Marriage Equality Act, which legalized same-sex marriage across the state. Activists and allies gathered with the Rock Rainbow Seniors to mark the anniversary.
Happy Pride, everybody. Happy
Pride. At the time, New York became the largest state to legalize same-sex marriage in 2011. Assemblymember Harry Bronson was one of the lawmakers who led the charge.
It's important for us in that celebration to commit to the ongoing battles for our human rights. And we're going to continue to fight for more equality.
Dr. Rosaria Butterfield was a college professor and former lesbian who spoke with Focus on the Family about her journey away from the gay lifestyle. She says same-sex attraction is not a human right.
You pray for repentance. This is a wonderful prayer for anyone listening to this who's struggling with your sexual sin. Lord, help me to see it as sin. Because I don't. I see it as my daily reality. Help me to see it as sin.
A Gallup poll out this month shows support for same-sex marriage is down 6 points. Just 62% of Americans now view gay and lesbian relations as moral, the lowest since 2016. The man running against Kathy Hochul made a pit stop in Syracuse, New York last night. Republican gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman.
We have a tremendous amount of momentum, and I fully expect to be the governor on January 1st.
Blakeman telling WSYR he's laser-focused on two things.
Well, first of all, we have to cut taxes. We have to cut utility rates. Our utility rates in New York State are 70% higher than the national average.
A Siena College poll out today shows Hochul has a 20-point lead over Blakeman, 52 to 32%. That's up from a 16-point lead in April. Pollster Stephen Greenberg says Blakeman's biggest hurdle is that voters don't know him. There was a rally at the Pennsylvania State Capitol against data centers in the Commonwealth.
Pennsylvania belongs to the people, not big tech.
We wanted to give frontline community members from across Pennsylvania the chance to come together for the first time in this state capitol to call on our elected officials. What we need is a statewide data center moratorium.
Protesters told WHTM they're concerned about high utility bills and what the centers could do to their towns.
A 3-year pause would allow municipalities the opportunity to get all of their zoning in place to determine if this can even be done. Right now, we are letting this industry run amok.
Luke Bernstein is the CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce. He says data centers will create an economic boom.
You need to understand the benefits and the reality. So if data centers don't come to Harrisburg, they will go to Houston. If they don't go to Houston, they'll go to Hong Kong. It is going to be a part of reality.
As all of that was happening outside the House chambers, inside the House, lawmakers hit the pause button on data center development in a nearly unanimous vote. House Bill 2496 gives towns the ability to invoke a 6-month pause on any data center application, so there's time to study the effects on power grids and roads. Former Buffalo Bills quarterback Jim Kelly told reporters he was hospitalized after experiencing a stroke in the spring. Kelly saying, quote, "I had a little setback a month and a half ago, but now I feel good." He says his eyesight and hearing are not great. The 66-year-old says recent tests were clean. Kelly underwent a series of surgeries and chemotherapy in 2013, 2014, and 2018 because of various forms of cancer. It was quite the scene in Rochester yesterday after a man in a stolen pickup truck led deputies on a chase across Monroe County.
The police helicopter, various different units. It was a crazy scene.
Deputy David Marcucci says his team found a stolen pickup truck at Corbett's Glen Nature Park in Penfield.
The driver, instead of listening to our commands and complying, decided to take off because of the circumstances. Almost striking a deputy. We did pursue the vehicle.
Traffic cameras showed a chase heading south on 390 with a line of police vehicles. The driver allegedly hit at least 5 cars before stopping in Rochester near the mall at Grease Ridge. This man watched it and spoke with Wham News.
They blew through the red light here. They kind of drifted, skidded through the intersection.
Marcucci says a deputy was hurt.
Even at the end of the pursuit, the driver was non-compliant. There was a use of force involved. During that time, one deputy did sustain a minor injury to one of the hands, and also one of our canine units sustained an injury.
The driver was hospitalized with injuries. Charges are pending. Amtrak is eyeing expansion in Pennsylvania. Their newest board member, Rob Gleason, spoke in Harrisburg.
There's no reason why we don't have a train from Harrisburg to Washington, D.C.
He says a second train to Pittsburgh should be operational by the end of the year, and he's eyeing future trains from Allentown to New York and Reading to Philadelphia. And from trains to boats, paddle boats, and a miracle story from a grieving mom in Pennsylvania. 7 teenagers were rescued from Quemahoning Dam over the weekend, southeast of Pittsburgh. Their story eerily similar to 18-year-old Joey Dubix, who lost his life in the same water. Both sets of teens were paddleboarding.
7 juveniles, and they were aged from 12 to about 14, 15 years of age that were over by the dam spillway, and the wind was blowing them. Some of them were stuck.
But this time, when the teens set out, there was a station by the water called Joey's Jackets in honor of 18-year-old Joey Dubix, who died without a life jacket 8 years ago, paddleboarding. His story told on a sign with his photo and an entire rack of brand new yellow life jackets. 3 boys had them on when they were plucked from the water on Saturday. Somerset County Swift Water Rescue Team Manager Scott Grant spoke with WJAC.
We could have had statistics. We could have had 3 people
that would have lost their lives.
When Gran realized what the boys were wearing, he contacted Joey's mom to tell her her program changed the end of the story for these families.
I didn't want another mother to have to go through what I go every day. 8 years ago, we lost Joey, and I can't change that, but I can change their lives. Maybe their child will put that on, and it happened on Saturday.
Christine Dubik says she immediately thought about the families at home.
I was very happy they all had them on, that they wore them, and then when I found out they were teenagers, that made me even happier that maybe the message is sticking, that they do need them. There's mothers that still have their babies.
Joey's Jackets in Pennsylvania. Go check them out. Turning pain into purpose. Mark Webster is next with the 2-minute drill. This is the Noon Report on Family Life.
Thank you, Sarah. Even though it's summer, we'll begin with hockey. The last time the Buffalo Sabres were this busy, probably Game 7 against Montreal. Sabres GM Jarmo Kekalainen is living up to his reputation as a fearless wheeler and dealer, sending winger Alex Tuch to Washington in a sign-and-trade deal for a draft pick ahead of free agency, then signing Zach Benson to a new 7-year, $52 million deal. All that a day after he sent Bowen Byram and Jordan Greenway to Chicago for a D-man and 2 picks, including number 4 overall. And odds are the Jarmo Show's just getting started.
We've made the trade. Now we have some draft capital that we can use to improve our team, whether it's in the near future with a trade, through a trade, or by making a pick. We'll weigh all those options until draft time and make another decision or two.
Round 1 of the NHL draft tomorrow night. World Cup, Canada lost 2-1 to Switzerland yesterday. In so doing, they lost home advantage, but they're still headed to the knockout round. The Tartan Party's in danger of an early ending as Brazil cruised past Scotland 3-0. South Africa stunned South Korea 1-0 to clinch a first-ever berth in the knockout stage. The U.S. has already locked up its berth in the next round, but wraps up group play tonight at 10 against Turkey, likely with a depleted lineup. The team's planning to rest 4 players who have a yellow card in group play. Star Christian Pulisic is ready to come back from a calf injury, but whether he plays tonight is uncertain. To baseball, Pittsburgh spotted Seattle the first run of the game, then it was all Pirates.
Free agents. Another hit. 4 hits for O'Hearn. 3 runs batted in. It's 11-1.
That was your final. It was a forgettable day for the New York Mets pitching staff, surrendering 10 runs twice as the Cubs swept a doubleheader. Dansby Swanson with a team record 11 RBI performance on the day. Later, Chicago acquired Mets lefty David Peterson to try to bolster their own struggling pitching staff. Phillies edged the Nationals 5-4. Yankees doubled up the Tigers 4-2. I'm Mark Webster, and that's a look at sports.
Thank you, Mark. Still to come on the Noon Report, help is on the way for Venezuela hit by twin earthquakes, a deep dive on a big U.S. Supreme Court case, and one of the oldest people in the world lives in Rochester. Those stories next.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Much has been written about the crisis of meaning, especially among young adults. Back in 2023, Harvard's On Edge report found that 58% of 18 to 25-year-olds experience little or no meaning or purpose during the previous month. 50% reported that their mental health suffered from, and I quote, not knowing what to do with my life. And then just this year, Talker Research reported that 32% of Americans are suffering an existential crisis, and that includes 52% of Gen Z. And it's no accident that this crisis of meaning has coincided with the rise of transgender ideology. This idea that the internal perception and projection of oneself is what's really true, and that biology, family, culture, religion, and everyone else should be made to align with it, that's the ultimate social experiment. Specifically, it's the attempt to make meaning, as if there were no meaning to who we are. Now, the many contributing factors to these phenomena, a primary intellectual source is the thought of Jean-Paul Sartre, who was born 121 years ago this month. Sartre was a central figure in the philosophical movement called existentialism. In fact, the term existentialism is derived from Sartre's most famous statement, that existence precedes essence. With this saying, Sartre inversed the traditional understanding of the relationship between essence, which refers to a thing's nature or purpose, and existence. See, historically, across most times and cultures, essence was considered logically prior to existence. Thus, there's a fixed human nature or essence within which people participate or exist. Sartre rejected the notion of a fixed human nature. Instead, he argued that the individual has to decide their nature. Without a fixed nature, humans were then radically free to choose their value and their identity. And though this idea of so-called radical freedom sounds liberating, for Sartre, it was not a gift. Rather, he said, humans are condemned to be free. No matter how we define ourselves or what meaning we make, it's all done, he believed, within a meaningless, absurd universe. It's meaningless that we're born, Sartre once said. It's meaningless that we die. In fact, he vividly described the terrifying prospect of meaning-making in terms of anguish and nausea, but he still believed it was the only path to an authentic life. We decide what values and causes we should pursue, even though we know our choices are in the end arbitrary and meaningless. For Sartre, the only alternative was what he called bad faith, to deny radical freedom by blaming a fixed nature or culture or an upbringing for the decisions we make. Now, Sartre's greatest impact on America was during the post-war years, especially the 1960s, but his ideas influenced a number of radical cultural movements that have followed. His emphasis on anguish as the centerpiece of authentic living contributed greatly to a therapeutic culture obsessed with anxiety and victimhood. The idea of bad faith undermined institutions, roles, and social traditions. In all of it, Sartre's ideas have brought to us this current crisis of meaning among young adults. To borrow a phrase, Sartre is one of those thinkers who rules the world from the grave. A dominant intellectual during his lifetime, his ideas still continue to shape hearts, minds, and cultures, and not in a good way. And because his ideas are now fully in the cultural water, they continue to have consequences and, yes, victims. So they must be identified and refuted wherever we find them. Even more, they should be replaced by better ideas, ideas that are true and good about the meaning of life and the value of the human person. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Dr. Glenn Sunshine. And for more resources or to share this commentary with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
Good afternoon. It will be somewhat unsettled through the afternoon with a good deal of cloudiness across the region. Most areas still some sunshine over portions of central and eastern Pennsylvania, but the clouds eventually moving in. Look for some showers and some thunderstorms through the afternoon, even a few briefly heavy thunderstorms in some spots with temperatures mainly in the 70s. Showers and thunderstorms will still be around in many areas this evening, but will tend to wind down through the overnight hours. And for most areas, some sunshine tomorrow, with temperatures getting a little bit warmer, up to around 80 or a bit above in some locations.
Thank you, Ken. This is the Noon Report on Family Life, and I'm your host, Sarah Harnish. We start in South America. Rescue teams have been racing to areas struck by powerful earthquakes in Venezuela. ABC's Sherry Preston.
They struck within a minute of one another, killing at least 164 people, injuring nearly 1,000 and trapping many beneath collapsed buildings. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Bahrain for a gathering of Middle East countries, saying the U.S. search teams are already on their way there.
The airport there is badly damaged, so we'll have to rely on the Department of War to deploy assets there. And then we're also helping them with some overhead imagery, especially in coastal areas where they don't have full visibility over what the damage has been and what the impact has been.
The number of people killed and hurt in the quake is expected to rise.
The price of oil has gone down as more ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz, but the price of everything else is still high. Economist Jim Ryan has more on inflation numbers released this morning.
The government's favorite measure of inflation was up 0.4% from April to May and 4.1% above May of 2025. Wall Street's investors fear that inflation would be worse, so the major stock indexes went into today's trading on a high note.
America's first transgender lawmaker is going to prison for 33 years for sex crimes against children. Stacey Marie Barry Lawton, age 42, was first elected to the New Hampshire House of Representatives in 2012. He quickly resigned after a hidden fraud conviction, but was re-elected in 2022. In 2025, he pled guilty to looking at inappropriate photos of kids. And the oldest person in the world is 116 years old, but in Rochester, New York, Monroe County's oldest resident, Ida Agnello, just celebrated her 109th birthday. She was born in 1917. Up until a few weeks ago, she was living on her own, organizing community clothing drives and serving at church. She credits God for her long life.
It was easy. The good Lord was on my side.
If you ever ask her about her life, she only tells you about the most blessed and beautiful parts. So That's just who she is.
Happy birthday, Ida Agnello from the Family Life News team. Next at noon, we are awaiting a ruling on one of the largest cases before the U.S. Supreme Court this session, transgender boys in girls' spaces. Alliance Defending Freedom is part of the legal team in the case out of Idaho. Let's listen in as they break it down. This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm your host, Sarah Harnish. With me, Alliance Defending Freedom's Chelsea Yeoman. We're awaiting one final case at the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a couple about to come down, but one really big case, and you're right in the middle of it, as usual. Tell me what's going on.
Yes, we are. We anticipated at the end of June is typically when the Supreme Court will release their bigger decisions. The decisions we're all waiting for. They have a lot of consequence, and so sometimes they've got concurrences or dissents they're drafting, but often they like to release those final decisions, and then it is the end of their term, and they get to go home after all their hard work. And so that big decision is the BBJ case, where we are, on behalf of our athletes, we represent so many incredible young girls and women, and then in partnership with the state of Idaho, we are challenging allowing boys and girls locker rooms. They are trying to protect, those states are doing an incredible job protecting girls and their sports, but also just saying we're going to acknowledge what is truth, which is there are only two sexes. We want women and girls to be able to compete and win and have trophies and have locker room spaces that are private. It's good common sense. And we also want them to be able to go to tournaments and overnight trips without having to worry about sharing beds or showers or their most personal spaces with a member of the opposite sex that makes them deeply uncomfortable. We are hopeful that the Supreme Court will rule on a couple of issues. First and foremost, that Title IX defines the definitions of sex have never changed. Our biology is real. There are women, there are men, there are boys, there are girls, and that's it. And then we also hope that they will decide the case on equal protection grounds. And these are really for women, for girls, but also for the safety and security of everybody in schools, which is what schools should really be worried about.
What would happen if you lose?
If we lose, we start to fight again in a different way. I don't think we're ever going home on these issues when it comes to what is true. We're going to always advocate for truth. We know that the Constitution should be immovable and supports us on these issues. And so we'll evaluate where we're at, but we know over 20 states have protected women and girls in their locker rooms and private spaces through their schools. So I think we're in the majority. It's certainly our hope.
Let's shift gears. You guys are fighting religious freedom cases all around the country. And there was testimony Wednesday about Texas and the passing of their abortion drug trafficking bill last summer. Texas giving a status update on what's happening. So what's going on there?
Yes, Sarah, this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I have been a pro-life advocate for most of my career, and I was very honored to get to work on this bill. This is a bill called the Women and Children Protection Act, HB 7, and Texas passed it last summer. It was the first bill in the nation to use really ingenious legal techniques. Another attorney is really the architect of this bill. And he came up with this idea for how to overcome out-of-state shield laws. 22 states and the District of Columbia, after Roe was overturned, passed shield laws that said their citizens can never be sued, no matter who they hurt, how many children they end the lives of, how many women they harm with sending abortion drugs, that you cannot be sued in a blue state like New York, for instance. So even though Texas was able to get a court order against Dr. Carpenter in New York, the New York county clerk never filed the order because she didn't have to, thanks to shield laws. HB 7 in Texas is the first bill designed not only to overcome an out-of-state shield law, but to stop the flow of abortion drugs into the state. And it's a landmark bill. It's a really incredible bill. Unfortunately, it was watered down a little bit on the House side, and the result of that has been drug manufacturers and internet websites are still producing the drugs and shipping them everywhere, and the websites still stand. And so there are cases in Texas arising. We know more cases are coming this year. But the goal is really to communicate to the legislature by way of an update through this hearing to testify and say the bill is working. There is a lawsuit. We're going to push that shield law issue. But at the end of the day, until we hold abortion drug manufacturers liable. Strict liability is what we want. And until we ask internet service providers to have a duty to pull down these websites where women can order drugs, it's going to continue to be a very difficult issue to address. And so I was able to testify to the committee, who is very, very receptive to doing what they can to protect as many kids as they can in Texas, and of course their mothers. It's not best for moms to be by themselves without physician oversight, taking very, very serious procedure like abortion. And heard testimony from women who did take abortion drugs and had horrible experiences and traumatic experiences, and they're really devastating to hear those stories. And if you've got questions, if you've had an experience at a school or faced discrimination, or maybe you made the choice to have an abortion and took the abortion drugs and were harmed by them, or maybe someone forced you to take them, you have rights. And you can go to adflegal.org, and we are here to help you and point you in the right direction. We are nonprofit legal services, so we truly don't take a dime. Free pro bono representation to defend your rights.
Why stay at the forefront of cases like these? The Supreme Court, Title IX, states' rights, Texas's ability to say no to mail-order abortion drugs. There's so many cases in so many states. Do you feel like you're making an impact?
If we don't engage, who will as believers? And I don't mean we even just at Alliance Defending Freedom. I mean wholesale as believers. Anytime we abandon an arena, whether it's political, whether it's service, serving in our communities, church, schools, that's how school districts get overrun and start allowing boys to compete in girls' sports. It's because Christians have not pursued those positions. And so for us, it's going to be a never-ending challenge. I certainly hope we work ourselves out of a job, but if we are working until the Lord calls us home one way or another, it's going to be an absolute honor. It's our calling in life to do that, to be in these spaces.
Learn more at adflegal.org. That is ADF's Chelsea Yeoman. Faith Under Fire airs Thursdays during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or at familylife.org. Finally, at noon, anyone who spent a summer day flying down a slip and slide can relate to Ride and Slide. It's a creation of a Tennessee senior center in which the community pitches in to give residents a senior-friendly version of a classic summertime thrill.
They get to ride down on the tubes like they get to be a kid again. It brings back their childhood memories. Some of these ladies or gentlemen are in wheelchairs again, but with the fire department and MTSU football team, they're able to help assist them onto the giant floats so we make it safe.
This volunteer has almost as much fun as the seniors.
Thank you. You got strong arms. It's a blessing just to make people's day.
Safe to say it made the seniors' day too.
Well, I've done it 4 times. This is the 4th time. That was fast.
You are never too old to be a kid again. And that's the world that we live in for Thursday, the 25th of June. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.